Hi everyone, my name is Jacob. Today I want to talk about the concept that is the heartbeat of any successful product, enabling users with good design. Usually, when we hear design, we think of the aesthetic, the colors, the fonts, how modern an app looks, but true design is functional. It is the invisible force that either empowers a user or creates a wall between them and their goals. When we design well, we aren't just making something pretty, we are making something usable. To do this effectively, we have to look at design across three distinct layers of a system: the UI, the API, and the database. Let's dive into how each of these layers can either enable or inhibit our users. Let's start with UI design. I call it the obvious one, since it's the one that everyone thinks of. This is the layer that the user interacts with directly every single day. But there is more to it than just how it looks. The first rule of thumb is to design with user flow in mind. This means mapping out the path a user takes from opening the app to completing a task. As designers and developers, we have to think about where it not only makes sense to click, but also where it is easy to click. For example, if a user is filling out a form, the submit button should be exactly where their eyes land naturally at the end, not hidden in a corner. Furthermore, we must be diligent about organization. We need to make sure nothing is unnecessarily hard to find in menus. Complexity is the enemy of the user. If we bury essential tools under three layers of navigation, we aren't saving space, we're costing the user time. A good UI enables the user by making the right choice the easiest choice. Moving behind the scenes, let's talk about API design. There's a common saying that APIs don't need user flow. While they don't have a visual interface, they do have a logical flow. The users here are the developers who have to integrate with your system. To enable those developers, your API must be predictable and intuitive. It needs to have a clear logic to its endpoint names. This is where standard protocols come in. Gets, posts, patches, puts, and deletes all need to be used for their proper purpose. Imagine the frustration of a developer trying to use your system when a GET request unexpectedly deletes a record. Additionally, without clear and well-named endpoints, your API becomes a nightmare to deal with. When we design APIs with clarity, we enable the entire development ecosystem to move faster and with fewer errors. Finally, we reach the foundation of it all, the database design. It is easy to assume that because users never see the database, the design doesn't affect them. However, while users may not be directly interfacing or interacting with a database, its design can still interfere with how they use other parts of a system. A rigid or poorly planned database is like a house with a cracked foundation. If the design is bad, it can actively prevent necessary changes from being made for user requests. We've all seen cases where a feature is delayed for months on end because the database can't handle that relationship. That's why it is important for our design to be agile and easy to make changes to. A flexible database enables the business to pivot. It allows us to say yes to user feedback. It keeps us from having to make unnecessary wait times for simple features. Ultimately, enabling the user starts with a foundation that is built to grow. In conclusion, good design is a holistic commitment. When we align our UI, our APIs, and our databases towards the goal of user empowerment, we create tools that don't just work for the user, but they help the user to thrive now and into the future. Thank you for your time.